Good morning, y'all. Welcome to Coffee with Connect. We get together on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30. We get into God's Word together. We have our coffee, and I have my Buckeye mug, my Blocko Buckeye hat, my Blocko Buckeye shirt. So just went for the whole ensemble today to match everything. And so I hope that you've got your mug, and maybe you're not as neurotic and weird as me, where you match your outfit to your cup. I don't know who does that. Anyway, we're gonna be continuing through 1 Peter chapter 2, and we're gonna pray, read, think, write, and do. And so if you haven't been a part of going through this, I'm glad you're here, and you have the opportunity to jump in and continue through the entire book of 1 Peter with us, as we're really just in the first few verses of chapter 2. So feel free to go back and read and catch up with us here. And Peter is continuing to talk about godly living, but also giving us insight into really Jesus and theology and who he is, and a lot of those things, and to help us with understanding that helps us with how we live out our life. And so as he's writing to the church as a whole, not really one specific church, but to the church as a whole, he keeps going. And these two verses here we're going to look at today are verses 6 and 8, and they're really kind of continuing what he talked about in the previous verses. So if you haven't prayed, push pause, pray, and let's read and see what God has for us today. It says this: as the scriptures say, I am placing a cornerstone in Jerusalem, chosen for great honor, and anyone who trusts in him will never be disgraced. Yes, you who trust him recognize the honor that God has given him. But for those who reject him, the stone that the builders rejected has now become the cornerstone. And he is the stone that makes people stumble, the rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they do not obey God's word, and so they meet the fate that was planned for them. So, as I said, he's continuing the thought from the previous verses here, but he's really kind of qualifying them a little bit more. He's quoting the Old Testament and Isaiah, and he's talking about Jesus, for sure, the cornerstone in Jerusalem. Anyone who trusts in him will not be disgraced. I mean, like, it's very clear that he's talking about Jesus here, because he is rejected by those that don't believe. But what they don't realize is that he is the foundation that everything is built on. That's what Peter's talking about here. And that's why he's honored and precious to those of us who trust in him and follow him. It's one of those, like, if you know, you know. Like, you hear people say that often today, but when it comes to Jesus, like, if you know, you know, and you get it. One way that a person, that you can tell if a person really has true biblical faith is their perspective on Jesus. Like, is Jesus priceless to them? Is Jesus precious to them? Then that's a pretty good indication of their faith. And so I would ask you that question: is Jesus precious to you in that regard? He should be. So what's God saying to you? What can you write down here that would make an impact on you, that would help you to remember this, to walk with this idea today for whatever it is that God's showing you? What could you maybe throw in the comments? And then what do we do with this? What's our action step? It says that he is the stone that makes people stumble. I find that phrase interesting. He is the stone that makes people stumble, because if you refuse to build on him, this is what he's getting at. If you refuse to build on him, then you're going to stumble over him. If you don't build on him, you're going to stumble over him. You can't avoid Jesus in one way or the other. He wasn't saying just add me to whatever structure that you have, and whatever that looks like for you, to just add some Jesus into that. No. That's not what he's saying. He's saying he needs to be the starting point of all, the cornerstone. Everything is laid out according to its connection to the chief cornerstone, and it needs to be built from there, not added into, but built from there. And because it's at the corner, if you reject him, if you try it your own way, you're going to trip, you're going to fall. It's not going to work out well. It says they stumble because they do not obey God's word until they meet the fate that was planned for them. So stumble and fall. Stumble and fall your own way. Or build on him and walk in his way. So thanks for joining me, and I hope that you'll like the video and subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone that needs it. And join me again here next time so we can have our coffee and connect to Christ, community, purpose, and God's word together.